They don't want people in their area partying, burning up and down, fights in driveways. I mean, that's pretty revolting.
In Hamilton, Rentworld's Sue White has been getting an earful from neighbours complaining about too much noise from one of her tenants.
We need to talk. So I've got 3 or 4 emails that are saying that you're just causing so much disruption around here they want you out. This established area is got older people in it.
Yeah.
So party animals don't fit.
Well, I'm not actually that bad, but yeah.
We need to decide what we're going to do.
Okay.
The way the tenant sees it, this garage provides not only safe off-street parking, but a great venue for late-night entertaining too. But the neighbours aren't sold. And if the complaints continue, there's a very real chance she will end up getting evicted.
You don't want to go to the tenancy tribunal. The moment your name's in there, it stays there.
Okay.
But the tenant is quite keen on the area and thinks her neighbours are overreacting. Sue gives her a week's grace to think things over properly and hopefully stave off court proceedings.
At the end of the day, she has to do the right thing. I have to do the right thing by my owners and by the neighbours.
Summit Properties' Vanessa Peklowski is one property manager not afraid to get her feet wet.
Over Easter weekend, the bridge that leads to the driveway washed out.
The bridge Vanessa is talking about is the only access to 2 rural tenancies she manages. She needs to find out what's left of the bridge, assess the damage and report back to the overseas owner.
Okay, so we're at our property in Tasman. We'll go down here and have a squiz. Whew. Yep, so you can actually see there's a retaining wall that's just given out completely and fallen over the other side because the water's got in behind it and pushed the bank out and then pushed that retaining wall over, which has left a dirty great hole.
Emergency contractors have laid down a stopgap aggregate, creating limited access, but there will need to be some serious work done to make the river crossing safe for all.
One of our tenants has a motorbike, he can still get access. One of my other tenants can't, so he has to park at the end of the driveway and his house is way up yonder, so he's having to wheelbarrow his groceries up.
That tenant has been compensated with a reduction in rent until a new bridge is built that will once again support 4 wheels.
Now we've got to wait 2 weeks for the culvert to be constructed, which is like a little box culvert that's going to fill that area completely.
But for now, it looks like the old wheelbarrow will continue to be put through its paces, which will at least reduce its carbon footprint.
Climate change, that's all I'm going to say.
Following a warning from property manager Sue White, a renter in this formerly quiet Hamilton street is still hosting late-night soirees in her garage. Sue has no choice but to take more definitive action.
They don't want people in their area partying, burning up and down, fights in driveways. I mean, that's pretty revolting. We need to know what we're going to do because this is not going to go away. We've only got one choice as property managers, and that is to send this to court. If you don't want to give notice, which you don't, do you want to give notice?
Moment, no.
Okay, so our only choice of action is to take this to Tenancy Tribunal.
But she isn't going to give up the garage that easily and has decided to fight for her right to party in court.
I have played the music loud, but not, excessively loud in my eyes anyway.
So we'll file it, and then you're going to need to have a fairly good, strong argument to stay here.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying.
Do you understand that?
Yeah, definitely. I think the complaints have been overboard. Yeah.
Thanks, hon.
See you later.
Okay.
Yeah, hopefully it's fair anyway, because, I want to be pushed out.
Sue can only put the evidence she has before the court and let the tribunal decide. Frustratingly for Sue, the tenant is allowed to stay, but subject to a good behaviour bond. She'll need to pull up her socks and keep the garage door down.
Hey, if she does what she has to do and doesn't disturb the neighbours, I will be her best friend. But as soon as she doesn't, that's it.
And in Wellington, Jared Buck has just had an alert come through about a renegade renter from one of his colleagues.
Aaron, our property manager, has been up to check on a property. The tenants have been in rent arrears and weren't responding to emails or phone calls. He's got up there and found that it looks as though the tenants have abandoned the property.
Aaron has remained guard at the property, keeping a watchful eye over a wet pile of household items.
Well, it's nice that they've moved all their rubbish out for us.
All signs point to the tenants having taken off without saying goodbye. They've even left their keys behind.
Well, that's clear that they've definitely up and left.
So not only will Jared and his crew need to start work on getting the place ready to re-tenant,
Oh, there's a bit of stuff that will get taken out of the place. New tenants don't need any of that.
they'll need to figure out if there's a way to recover the unpaid rent.
I'm thinking that it's more likely that they've headed off overseas because they've left a lot of bigger items that didn't initially come with the property. Still need to do a fair bit of cleaning to get it ready for new tenants, but Luke's on his way up here. We'll give him a hand to load up all the rubbish. Yep, that's good. What we want to do, go through the rubbish, see if we can find any clues as to where they've possibly gone. Just lots of games. Certainly must be a bit of value in that stuff. They've had to leave it all behind. They've gone quite quickly. It's only been one rent payment that they've missed, so it hasn't been long that they've disappeared.
It isn't long before Luke finds the first bit of intel. It's a name badge with the tenant's name written on it.
That's his name, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the guy.
But that doesn't tell Jared anything he doesn't already know.
They didn't seem the type that would just up and leave. I think the easiest thing they thought to do was to pack up a few of their belongings and go.
The tenant's whereabouts remain a mystery, but it doesn't take Aaron long to find something to really chew over.
Want a tooth, Jared?
Oh, what? Oh, yuck.
Summit Properties' Vanessa Peklowski has been managing the repair of this bridge culvert in Motueka, which provides the only access to two tenancies on the other side of the creek.
Contractors got in touch with me last week, said, yep, we're all done, so I just want to go out and see what we've paid for, basically.
Through dealing with this problem, Vanessa has acquired a newfound appreciation for reinforced concrete.
It's just around the corner. I never knew I'd be so excited about a culvert, and there it is. Ta-da! In fact, I'm just going to drive right over it. Oh, yeah. That's so much better. Yeah, that's amazing. And now I'm going to reverse over it.
Vanessa could keep doing this all day, and probably would if she wasn't so busy. She's keen to get up close to the new overpass.
Okay, so culvert time. Let's check it out. Something like this was not something that I would ordinarily deal with, but I guess being a rural property manager, I can expect to potentially get a bit more of this, so.
The tenant no longer has to wheelbarrow his groceries up the driveway, and the landlord's put the rent back up to normal again, so everyone is happy. Meanwhile, in nearby Richmond, it looks like the sun's come out for fellow Summit property manager Jane Allred. But in this backyard, things aren't going so swimmingly.
Oh, okay. So this is what happens when you empty a concrete pool. Unfortunately, being so close to the sea and having considerable rain last weekend, it's kind of acted like a bit of a boat and it's floated out of the ground.
Because the pool wasn't included in the tenancy, the property owner decided on emptying it rather than putting up a safety fence, failing to predict the downpour that occurred almost immediately after.
He may not be totally comfortable with that decision now. This is going to be a pretty big fix, unfortunately. This here clearly used to sit flush down here. And I'm thinking we can't just refill it and hope it sits back down. We're going to have to get some advice on this, but I suspect it's not going back in. It may have to be removed.
In Hamilton, Rentworld's Sue White has been mediating on behalf of a landlord between a noisy tenant and the tenant's increasingly angry neighbours.
Our only choice of action is to take this to Tenancy Tribunal.
The Tenancy Tribunal gave the tenant one last chance, placing her on a good behaviour bond as a condition of allowing her to stay. But now, in a twist of fate, the neighbours and Sue may finally be able to rest easy. The owner of the property is keen to move back in, so the tenant has to move out anyway.
So the owner is coming back to live in his property, so we have given her 42 days notice to vacate, which I am extremely happy about, might I add. And I'm just going over now to do the final.
Sue meets the tenant at the garage where the partying occurred.
Exactly. This is just this bit.
The owner is expecting to come home to an empty, clean house and isn't going to be jumping for joy when faced with this.
I had to do everything myself, and it's really hard.
Honey, you've had 42 days to do this. Yeah. You need to get all the stuff out today.
Nothing has been moved out, just sort of scattered around. And now Sue has to put on another kind of hat, personal problem solver.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Like many people, the tenant has found packing up an overwhelming task and has left it to the last minute. Luckily, Sue's seen this before and knows how to get things done.
It'll be okay.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been stressing so much. Everything's just gone all at once, even.
Oh, honey, I've seen worse. 100% worse. All right?
But the main issue is getting this place 100% clean and tidy before the owner arrives in the morning.
Do you want me to get cleaners in? Do you want me to get a quote?
Yeah, that'll be good.
Perfect idea.
Yeah.
Okay? She's agreed to get some cleaners in, so they're going to come in after hours. We'll get it all cleaned up. They'll be here, 4 of them for a few hours. And they'll make it beautiful and sparkly clean. And we'll have a nice, clean, tidy house to give over. Okay.
Cool.
Okay. She's obviously tried and it just hasn't happened for her. That house has never looked like that during inspections. She hasn't been like that. I think just things have just been overwhelming.
With a last push from Sue and knowing the cleaners will be paid out of her bond, the tenant is finally feeling inspired to get down to work.
Yeah, I've got a van coming at 4, so I'll start gathering everything from that end into this end, and we'll pile the van up and get rid of it.
I just want to make sure that she's okay. And she will be okay. She'll be okay. She's a woman. She's a survivor.
Back in Wellington, Jared Buck and his team from Trust Property Management are doing a bit of detective work, looking for any evidence as to the whereabouts of a missing tenant who still owes a week's rent.
More likely that they've headed off overseas. They've had to leave it all behind. They've gone quite quickly.
But information is thin on the ground, bar a name tag.
That's his name, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the guy.
And dental records.
Want a tooth, Jared?
Oh, what? Oh, yuck. Those teeth are in a bad state. What adult keeps their teeth?
Not the previous owner of these ones, it seems, who has left them for Jared to dispose of.
I've never known any adult to keep their teeth. Oh, something new every day. Oh, yuck.
The rubbish outside affords no information as to where the tenant has gone.
Nothing of real interest in that lot.
But what about inside?
There's a bag of rubbish here. There's some stuff in the freezer. We've got some stuff out of the cupboards and put it onto the bed.
Aside from some frozen dumplings,
That'd be nice.
clues are thin on the ground in here as well. With the tenancy's abandonment all but confirmed, priority now is to get this property back on the rental market as quickly as possible.
Bathroom's looking a lot better. The toilet's good. Yeah, this room's ready. It's nice and tidy. It's actually turned around very quickly. It's looking presentable, looking ready for new tenants.
Locating the runaway tenant will require a bit more work, but at least the landlord won't be out of pocket. The 1 week's rent arrears and the minimal costs in cleaning the property are covered by the previous tenant's bond.
The tenants had put all their stuff and rubbish out the front of the property. It means we didn't have to assess the value of it to work out whether we needed to store it before we could find the tenants or find out whether they had left the country.
They say into every life must come a little rain, but the owner of this Nelson property, managed by Summit Properties' Jane Allred, has had more than his fair share.
This is going to be a pretty big fix, unfortunately. This here clearly used to sit flush down here.
Recent downpours have raised the underground water table and taken this recently emptied swimming pool with it.
So it's raised about 30 centimetres down this end, probably up to about 50 centimetres, half a metre down this end.
And Jane has been managing the crisis with the property's owner.
We're just going to take a wee drive back out to our levitating swimming pool. We had a few options that we ran by the owner. Filling the swimming pool in ended up being one of the most expensive because it's actually quite a big pool. So we have gone with a wee fence.
Jane has been kept updated on progress with the fence and is here to see it for the first time.
Not quite what I was expecting. So just basically just a barrier, a safety barrier to prevent the tenants, property managers and any random wanderers from hurting themselves.
It may not be the most elegant of solutions, but it's by far the most economical and, for now, safest.
It's pretty sturdy. It's not an inviting fence, but that is actually a good thing because they're not allowed to swim in it now anyway.
The property owner was actually planning on getting rid of the pool eventually, with a view to subdivide the property.
But this will just basically serve its purpose. Not quite as permanent as we were hoping for, but given the plans of the property, it's adequate just to keep people safe. Eventually it will be removed, broken up and filled in.